but we actually got their friend John Rodney in, and John Rodney actually recommended Max Lane. So, and Max Lane's going to be on next month. So everything worked out perfectly. And I'm super excited to have John Rodney here. John, thanks for being here.
No, screw Max, man. He's not even really sick. He's just faking it. I'm just kidding. That guy's one of my best friends. But I'm really psyched to be here. Thank you for having me, Ron.
Yeah, dude. I hope he's listening too right
Oh,
now.
I bet he is right now. Laying up in bed.
Yeah, just chilling.
Yeah, eat your chicken noodle soup.
Yeah.
We see you, Max.
Yeah, saltines.
Yep. Underneath your little blanket.
So actually I met John last year at I went to with my friend Scotty Sandwich to Austin Lucas show, and we were outside talking after the show, and you were like, oh, because I was like, I'm a booking agent at the time. I was and a booking manager, and you're like, oh, well, I do country music. And I was like, cool. I was like, well, I need to get you up at the Orpheum in Oxford. And you were like, oh, I'll go to Oxford all the time. You're like, I go to Quitting Time and stuff. I was like, what? And we ended up like, connected and linked up through Instagram and stuff. And I'm a fan of your music, and here we are. Yeah. So I think it's amazing. And, I like to highlight like local artists and music that I like. So I think it's great that you're here, and it's awesome because apparently you've got some new stuff for us tonight that'll be coming out later. Yep. I know you got a pre-save song coming up here soon.
Next week. Yeah.
Next week. And what's the name of the song again?
New one's coming out. It's called How Many of Us.
Okay. All right. Awesome. So like with this show, like what we do is we do a little Q&A, and we do a song and, repeat like that. So I want to ask, like, how did you get your start in music?
So I got started in music when I was young, not like growing up in it. Like I didn't come from a particularly musical family. But when I was a teenager, I had a lot of angst. So I was in like various hardcore emo bands.
Okay.
We wore the tightest jeans you could wear. I had the big old swoop haircut.
Oh, I was there
studded
too.
Belt. I was cool. But yeah, got started in that. And it was kind of like a fun high school thing to do with buds and stuff. And then, the hardcore scene around here had a really vibrant, like local regional scene. Mm-hmm. And then like, I think late aughts into the teens, it kind of started to like wind, like it became really saturated, and it kind of started to wind down.
Yep, that is true.
And eventually I like made my way back to the country music that I had grown up on. And really got into old country and old honky tonk stuff like George Jones and Gary Stewart. And that kind of led me back into more of like acoustic genres, like old country and folk and like the new alternative country that's coming out today.
Oh yeah.
Because I had just been so upset with all the country music that had been coming on the radio since like 05. I was like, this is not cool anymore.
Horrible.
Yeah, it's not cool anymore. Yeah. But yeah, and then I don't know, country music, like, just kind of felt like the more I got into it, the more I realized like it's a really fun sandbox to write songs in. Like the entire overarching Americana roots, whatever you want to call, genres or genres, but like there's so much stuff you can do. There's so many different ways to tell a story, express an emotion. It's a good time. I'm sure I'll get bored with it eventually, but for now,
I don't think so. I hope not. You kind of like, you can make it your own.
Yeah, you can bend the genres in a lot of ways that are really fun.
Exactly. And you were talking about, like the whole emo hardcore thing. Like, I still listen to I listen to a whole lot of different music, but I still listen to a lot of that stuff. But I came up in that scene too, like, Tragicura Records.
Oh yeah.
I used to intern for them back in the day.
No way.
And like I knew like one of the owners, Tommy, and like his wife, Alicia. Well, now then
were they cool?
Tommy's cool and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, the label back then, it was like, and I didn't even like particularly like a lot of those bands, but I just thought it was cool that I had a hook up, and I was able to, like, even when I was getting paid, I got to intern and got to be a part of the scene and stuff. So that's how I got my wife, because like we worked together, and she's like, oh, can I call it? Like we weren't speaking yet. She's like, can I call you? I'm like, yeah. So I had, I'm still friends with Stephen Toomey, the original bassist for the band, but Alisana.
No way,
yeah,
Alisana.
Yeah,
those dudes were like, all of Tragic Hero bands were like the coolest. Like they were our heroes back in high school. We were like, oh, I wish we were like them. Like,
yep,
so hard.
And so like I'm still friends with them, but like with Steven, but like I like had a ringback on my phone, which if kids don't know back, you used to have like a song when you called somebody to play for you while you wait for them to answer. So I had an Alessandra ringback on my phone, and like I answer, and my
Tell me it was like the high pitched scream that they did. Like,
oh, it was. I think it was like congratulations.
You know what song I'm talking about?
Yeah,
too.
it was Sean. Like,
yeah.
He used to play with the guitar up high, like up his chin, like.
Was that album like on Vanity and Wax?
Yes,
about Icarus.
It was. It was on. That was the album. The song was on. I think it was "Congratulations, I Hate You," and but my then girlfriend, now wife, was like, "Is that Alessandra ringback?" And I was like, "Yeah, they're friends of mine." And then on, like that was it.
That's all.
That's all.
This whole time, that's what I've been needing. Didn't know if you're friends with Alessandra.
But yeah, I was like part of that whole scene. I'm still friends with a few people from that scene. Actually, one lives in Oxford now. My friend Lisa. Shout out to Lisa. And my friend Allison and like a few other people. But yeah, that kind of like I was like gotta hook the seat, like reel her on in.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like I understand, we're both country boys. I'm from a tobacco farm, and we grew up, and I grew up on that same kind of classic country, as a kid and stuff, and then kind of left it once I got like a little bit older because I was getting into different types of music. And then I want to say probably about my early to mid 20s, I was like, because I was like, oh, country's horrible. And then like I heard a Conway song, and I was like, it just took me back. And Conway's just the best.
Conway he's
the best, and one of my favorites. And then so I'm like, and I was also listening to stuff like Ryan Adams and Wilco and just like stuff like that. And then I kind of, American Aquarium came along too, and that just blew me out the water. And I was like, all right, let's give this a second chance. I kind of like got back into.
It's so cool to see how far those guys have gone.
I know, I love it.
I remember they used to play Raleigh like every single weekend.
Oh yeah, especially American Aquarium and BJ. Like they're like,
yep.
So I'm so proud of them, and like so proud of him, and like where he's came, from just being like this Reidsville boy that went to school at State, and now he's traveling the world, and fighting the good fight on Twitter.
And he's good to people too. Like I see him bringing up a lot of smaller medium artists.
Yeah, especially
him.
Yeah, especially for Road Trip to Raleigh. And like on Twitter, I try to like tag him and stuff, like maybe like you and Max and just like whoever's local that like has that country sound. Like, hey, like this art, it'd be cool if you had this artist open up for you. Give them. There's other bands that gave like Drive By Trucker stuff. They gave you a chance. You give them a chance,
right?
And it makes more sense,
the torch is passed
exactly, and because it's local,
the story lives on.
Exactly. So let's break into the first song. What's our first song here?
So I reckon we'll start off. Put out an EP back in back in October, and just 4 little songs that I wanted to kind of introduce myself with. I ended up spending a lot of time last year with a buddy of mine in his home studio, and we recorded a ton of tracks. And I had this collection of tracks like sitting in front of me. And as I was like progressing as a songwriter and writing different songs and experimenting with different sounds, I realized this is not at all a cohesive album here. At one point, I had set out to write some songs from the point of view of a redneck, what a redneck would think of homophobia if most rednecks weren't homophobic, right?
Okay.
Because I'm, 9th or 10th generation Southerner. Like I come from a big Southern family. We've been here for a long time. I was raised Baptist.
Yeah.
Homophobia is woven throughout those belief systems.
Yeah, it is.
As it is sometimes. But country music has been a way, especially this EP is kind of a way for me to reclaim and merge together some like identities of mine that I've had. Because growing up in a conservative town with parents in a religious community, it was like I did a lot of becoming a chameleon to hide, and in times that I needed to. And like, I'm pretty good at it.
Yeah.
And, but it kind of led to like this fractured sort of identity down the road, when I did eventually come out and accept myself as queer, but not till like my early 20s.
Yeah.
And it was like the queer communities I'd found were like, rad punk kids downtown.
Yeah.
So it was like, oh, I'm cover up my accent real quick. So I don't sound like the people that you know.
Yeah.
I don't sound like your bullies in high school.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It made me feel like for the longest time I felt like I was never really a part of either world. You know, not really sure who I was, but
Trying to find your identity.
yeah.
Kinda.
And coming back into this style of music that I grew up on and looking at Southern culture as a whole, I think there's a lot of things in Southern culture that need to change.
Oh, definitely.
But country music, I keep coming back to it. It's this outlet where it's a context where you're allowed to share emotions.
Yeah.
Right. As masculine as you can be, you can sit there and talk about crying in your beer.
Yeah.
And that's socially acceptable and people respect that.
Yeah.
But then when you take it out of that context, men aren't supposed to have feelings. We're not supposed to be sensitive. You know?
Yeah. I know. I totally agree with like
Right.
what you're saying, and I totally understand it, especially coming from somebody who grew up in the same kind of in the South, in
Yeah.
the farming community, stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah.
So this song, it's a little talking blues song I wrote.
Which is one of my favorites.
Yeah, it's been everybody's favorite. It was kind of like a B-side that I was just like, oh, we'll throw it on the CP and see what happens. And then it hit TikTok and everybody really, really liked it. This is a story. It's called Talking Hetero Blues, Talking Heterosexual Blues, Heteronormative Blues. It's a little story about what it's like being a queer person in the country, and like a little story about going to a bar and observing things to be actually pretty gay as well. People just don't want to see it. Well, the weather was perfect and the moon was bright, and I decided I'd go out on the town tonight. I was feeling friendly and my hair looked nice and my jeans were fitting tight. And I had all the confidence of a mediocre white man. Well, the nearest place wasn't very far, so I hopped on inside my little car, drove on down to some country roadside bar. And the name on the sign read, and this is a real place, Ron knows because he's been there. It read Big Daddy's. Well, now I'm queer, but I'm country too, so I figured I'd stay for a drink or two. That whiskey was cheap and the beer was cold, and I was woefully unaware of the events about to unfold at Big Daddy's. Well, I was sitting on the bar stool nursing a beer when I couldn't help but overhear these two big fellas that were way in the back, and they were having themselves a shouting match. And one of them called the other one a faggot, and they decided to fight about it. And they started wrestling. And now, I don't know if y'all have ever watched two grown men roll around on the floor together, attempting to prove their heterosexuality. I'll tell you what, between you and me, they look pretty gay. But hell, what do I know? Well, this clearly wasn't the place for me. But no sooner than I had turned to leave, some guy walked up, said his name was Earl, and told me my hair looked like a girl. I said, thank you for the compliment, Earl. Just so you know, my pronouns are he, him. And Earl said, well, who's he? I said, no, Earl, those are my pronouns. And he kind of scratched his head and looked around and he said, Bo, what in the hell are pronouns? Well, I decided to go before things got ugly and find myself some better company. I didn't come there looking for trouble, so I left Big Daddy's on the double. Faster than you can say heteronormative society. Thanks, y'all.
Amazing. And like I said, that's like one of my favorite songs.
It's hard to write a talking blues song.
Yeah, it is. Well, you did a good job on that one. I will have
Thank
to say a very, very, very good job.
There's like half a notebook filled up with like punchlines and stuff that that didn't slap. No.
Like,
Okay, too far.
uh,
Long elaborate stories that went nowhere.
yeah. So what inspires your songwriting and the process behind it?
I think what inspires me really what I set out to do was when I first started writing songs, I was super inspired by people like Austin Lucas coming out.
Oh yeah.
I'm a longtime Austin Lucas fan. To see Austin come out as trans and really have that like queer as an FU attitude.
Yeah, oh,
like,
yeah.
I resonate with that.
You 100%.
Yeah.
They 100%.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because there's a stereotype that like queer people are not, they're fragile. We can't defend ourselves. And
Like
we're
blacks or
snowflakes. It's
something.
like, no, man, I'll punch you in the mouth. I
Yeah.
will do it. I have had my ass kicked many a time, and I'm sure I will again. But I don't. I really align with that. Like, no, let's fight.
Yeah.
But yeah, Austin, and then I saw a Lavender Country show
Oh,
on like Patrick Hager's last tour.
like
And it was
passed away, right?
yeah, it was
Yeah.
before he passed away, and it was a roundup tour. So I got to see Austin, Paisley, Molly Abamsawam, and all of them like do each other's songs. They kind of trade off one big band jamboree on a long 2.5 hour set. And it was one of the most like cathartic queer community experiences I've ever had.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, this is country music.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't believe it for the longest time. I thought like I'm probably like one of the only like queer rednecks around.
Yeah.
Because we're few and far between.
Yeah.
You know,
That's
and-
true. I've known and been friends with a few, but it's not like a common thing.
Yeah. But I came over from that show and I was like, you know what? I want to do this too. Like, I want to write songs because I can sing country songs.
Yeah, you can.
But I was like, for the longest time, I was like, well, I want to write country songs that are the truth, or else it's not country.
Yeah.
Right. So I'd have to write songs about myself, and I'd have to write songs about being queer. I didn't think anyone wanted to hear that. And then to be in a full house at Pinhook where people are just like so happy and so joyous, they're crying, and it's this like
I love the
cathartic
community there.
moment. Yeah.
It's
It was
such
beautiful.
it's such an accepting and like great community, you know.
Yeah.
And like, as a straight white man, but an ally, like I get to see that from the outside, and also like be accepted by that community and be friends
Yeah.
with these types of people, And I think it's great because I've always like like I said, I grew up on a tobacco farm in a Southern family, but my grandparents were very, very open-minded people,
Oh, that's
and like I remember asking my grandpa, like what type of person I should be, like who should I trust? He was like, be who you want to be. He's like, don't let anybody else tell you any different. He was like, it doesn't matter what you are, It's like, as long as you're trying to like your dad, you'll be okay. Which I love my dad, but at the time, and he was a little different. Yeah, they were very open-minded, and like we brought people over. So my grandparents, and you can ask my wife, like it'd be anywhere between 10 to 25 people eating dinner at their house every night. It didn't matter what race you were. It didn't matter what religion you were. It didn't matter your sexual orientation. You were always welcome to that house. And if you left hungry, that was your own fault. That was the only thing. You leave hungry, you tell everybody, And I would bring people, bring people of different, genders, people that identify differently. Than like my grandparents do or I do, or and just like it was like they were such loving, caring people that of course I lived with them, so it inspired me, and I learned that way to not judge somebody just because they're queer or they're trans or they're black or they're Chinese. Just accept people for who they are.
Yeah.
Until they personally prove you wrong because they're a bad person just in general.
That's so true. And like that's so indicative of like what Southern culture really is.
Yeah.
We've got like it's like the meanest are the loudest.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, and I'm sure you've experienced it if you've left the South too. You're either a novelty or looked down upon as like one of those Southerners.
Yeah.
It's like,
I went to New York City one time, and they were like, "You are from the States," because I could hear my own accent when I was talking. It was so strong. I'm like, I don't hear. I'm like at home, like I don't sound Southern, but here, like, hey y'all, what's going on? And they're like, "Good Lord, dude."
I remember the first time I noticed my accent. I was in philosophy class in college, and like there was other people there with the same accent as me. But they sounded so stupid, and because they were kind of stupid. You know? I was like, I don't want to get lumped in with those, so I'm gonna try and cover up my accent and not
I find it too.
Yeah, and you try for a while, and like I, had a bunch of friends and met a bunch of friends, you meet all these new people and get new roommates and stuff. And one night we were all sitting around drinking, and I was about, I don't even think I was like 6-7 beers deep, and I think I let out a holler or something, and I was like, JR's a redneck. I didn't realize you were such a hick. It's like, yeah, I covered it up.
Yeah, I actually did the same thing too. Like I had like I guess when me and my wife first met, like I did not sound like Southern and stuff, but you can try and hide it, but it never leaves you.
Yeah.
So like after a couple beers, it was like hi, like it's just strong and thick.
Your mama calls you on the phone.
Yeah, like it's so strong and thick, and then or it's like you're talking to people and you all of a sudden like hear yourself talking, and then you just stop, and they're like, what? And you're like, I just hear myself talking. That sounds so judgy right now.
Yeah.
What sets you apart from other artists in your genre?
In my genre, so I was having an interesting conversation with several people around genres and what genres mean when they have the word queer in front of them. Right?
Yeah.
So like, there's plenty of other queer artists, even here in the area, that don't kind of bill themselves or brand themselves as like queer country.
Yeah.
Right. And there are some people that would push back against that, saying like, no, if you're queer, you should be proud about it, and you should be out, and like, this is queer music. And I don't think we should force anybody to do anything they want with their own brand, right? Like, because I think like Lily Rose is one of the bigger like pop country singers. It's like, come out, but it's also said like it's the least interesting thing about me.
Yeah, there's
like
so much more.
That's not what my whole identity is based, and that's not what she wants to base her brand around.
Yeah.
And I think that's totally fine. I think you should be allowed to like present yourself however you want to.
Yep.
And you should be allowed to hide being queer if you want to, because I had for the longest time, and I still do in certain spaces, and that's just part of having to survive in this climate, in these manufactured culture wars.
Yeah.
But for me, my music, I decided to put queer in front of outlaw country because I felt like I was bringing something new to like an outlaw country sound or an alternative country sound.
Yeah.
But especially like everything, this album that I'm getting ready to, full-length album getting ready to release, and the EP that I released, these are songs for queer people, like for people that have grown up in the South in conservative, environments, and want to hear themselves represented in a genre that typically hasn't before.
That's true.
And I think I stand out a little bit from other artists that are in like under the moniker of like the queer country genre.
Yeah.
People like Orville Peck and like Adeem the Artist and other big names like that. Yeah, they're great, but my sound, I wanted to go for something a little bit like more of like alternative, like stripped down acoustic, more lower production kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's a bit more on the nose, I think, which kind of adds to the outlaw quality of it.
I love it, and I think it's great that they like people who are who are queer and love outlaw country and stuff like that. Like they have someone like you to represent them.
Yeah,
and I think it's awesome. And since you bring up Adeem, I actually got to meet Adeem last year. So he was opening up for Mountain Goats.
Oh, really?
It was sold out. And
Amazing.
Laura and I, he decided to do School Kids on Chapel Hill.
Yeah.
They got him for record store day. So I had already talked to him. I talked to them on Twitter, and I had got Adeem to do a bumper for my radio show, which I'll have you to do after we're done.
Yeah.
And Laura Jane Grace did one too, which is I was like, oh my god. So we went and saw Adeem, and it was just so magical. And played middle of the heart, and it just melted my heart.
That one's a banger.
Oh my god, it's so good. It makes me want to cry, dude. And so afterwards, I bought a Dean's record, got it signed, and went to talk to Dean. And I'm like, hey, I was like, my name's Ron. And he's like, oh, nice to meet you, Ron. I was like, we actually kind of talked back and forth. I was like, I host a show called Stuck in Rotation. You did a bumper. And he was like, oh, dude, come. And just like straight, like, grabbed me and hugged me and stuff. I'm like, this is the best moment ever. All right, so enough about me.
But Dean was really sweet, though. I actually, like, I felt like the moment I had my moment on stage last year, they hit me up to open for them when they came through, like Pinhook.
That's right.
Yeah.
I forgot.
That was, I did like a really short, like 20 minutes set. They're like, oh yeah, come up here and just do a short opener set. And I was like, all right. Yeah, and I did. It was like being in front of a sold out Pinhook crowd, and like the Dean's crowd is the best.
Yes.
Like they were so like just ready to party and like attentive. Like
I know you had to be super nervous too.
oh, I was pretty nervous.
Yeah.
But I had my buddy Gordon with me playing.
Oh, nice.
Playing pedal steel. So
That wasn't too bad.
wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
Wasn't too bad.
All right, so what song do you have up for us next?
So the next song I have is the Queer Country Love Song I wrote for my husband. We've been getting married for about almost 7 years now.
Yeah.
Thank you. He deserves those claps because he put up with the whole lot. So my husband is trans, and it's a really interesting perspective that he has on masculinity. That's helped me to understand the toxic elements and what the true elements of like masculinity should be.
Yeah.
And in a lot of ways, I've unpacked a lot of the stuff that I grew up doing. And it's helped me to become a better person. My friend Grace always laughs at this song because it's a love song, but the first 3 words are "You don't like me." Well, he don't like me just because I'm country. He sure does love the way I sing. He just wants me for my heart. All of I can bring. Well, not old man. Damn near most. Well, he ain't worth a damn. That's the God's honest truth. So when you find that walk the line, well, you better hold on. 'Cause a good man ain't easy to find. He stands by me even when I'm untrue. He lifts my spirit. I'm feeling good. He bears witness to worst parts of me. He knows that deep down I mean to do well. Well, not all man, but damn near most. Well, he ain't worth a damn. That's the God's honest truth. When you find, whoa, whoa, well, you better hold on, 'cause a good man ain't easy to find. If you've ever found a sturdy man to lean on, or a strong man to get you, never you fall. Hell, in all of my life, there's one thing I learned. It's that a good man ain't easy to find. Thanks, Sean.
That was just beautiful, beautiful. Curtis wants to know, do you need another refreshment?
Good. I brought an extra. Thank you, though. Yeah. Feed me beer. This is gonna get really interesting. You're gonna invite me back.
Like, John Rodney's on the band list. No, I would never do that.
The infamous. I wouldn't do that. Hey, maybe I can make my image more like the bad boy of queer country music.
Yeah.
No one would believe that because I have the personality of like a golden retriever.
Yeah.
Assume everyone's my friend. What they want to be.
That's kind of how my personality is too. I'm friends with everybody,
Right.
until they prove me wrong.
And then we get done wrong and we're like, who could have seen this happen?
Yeah.
Who could have seen this?
And everybody's like, yeah, we did, but you didn't. And you're like, yeah, no. So, what's your favorite song to play?
My absolute favorite song.
Absolute favorite song to play.
Poncho Laughing
Okay.
by Townsend.
Yeah. And we got a little preview of that during sound check. So sorry guys.
I think that song saved my life.
Oh yeah.
That was like one of the most. There's a lot like Townsend's music is very, very dear to my heart.
Yeah.
And I think a big motivation for me learning the guitar was wanting to be able to play and sing his songs when I was deep in depression. Having bipolar is something that definitely I think if you have bipolar, you're probably doing something creative at some point.
That is true.
But yeah, those his songs. Pancho and Lefty was like one of the first ones I learned that I was like, okay, I could do this. Like I think I can play guitar now. Like years of stumbling through it.
Yeah, just kind of like maybe putting it off, and you're like, all right, I'm ready. It's time. What musicians inspire you?
Today, like in the like current musicians. Or?
How about we do older musicians that inspire you, and current musicians that inspire you?
Older musicians that inspire me. I'd definitely say Towns. I won't go off on Towns for the whole segment, but I could. His music really was one of the first that drew me back into country and folk and roots music. I think I had a roommate that was like a huge Rolling Stones fan, and he was like, "Oh, check out this cover of Dead Flowers." Go find out Towns wrote that song.
Oh, really?
Well, supposedly.
Supposedly.
I think he wrote it.
Yeah,
but I mean,
it sounds like him, you know.
Yeah, but I heard that and I was like, dang, this guy's voice is like butter right now. Like I'm needing this in my heart. And then got deep into him and got into John Prine.
Nice, love John Prine.
He's just a fantastic writer, storyteller.
One of the best.
It's like he can break your heart, but then make you laugh at the same time. You know,
Storm Windows is like one of my favorite albums of like all time.
Yeah.
It's so amazing.
I mean, I try to incorporate. I say try, but no one really can do it like Prime. Incorporating comedy and tragedy into all one act. It's been like a learning curve for me, having like funny songs and having serious songs, because I've learned, like, if you don't talk very much and you don't have segues or context in between songs,
Yeah.
your set just kind of sounds like, tell me you're bipolar without telling me you're bipolar. You know?
I think you do a very well job at doing, you know, the comedy and the seriousness.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
As a fan.
Wait till you come to a show where I bomb it, and then you're like,
I'm like, he's still good.
no. He's good. Don't worry.
Yeah, don't worry.
It was an off night.
So since we touched on this earlier, well, you had mentioned this earlier, and I'm sure this is probably the same answer. Your favorite as a musician, or they're guessing it's going to be the Dean show.
Yeah, that show was killer. To be able to like have an audience, like have a crowd to work that wasn't like 15 of my friends.
Yeah.
You know, or just like, I mean, I don't care. I play to an empty house.
Yeah.
I do it all the time. I don't, you know, ain't no big deal. But having a bunch of people around is really fun. And that was like a huge moment for me. I was like, wow, I really feel like I'm doing this. I feel like I fit in.
Like this is where this is it.
Yeah. I think aside from that, there's a queer country, like a country band around here, called Severed Fingers. It's been around for a while. Jesse Dillon.
Yeah.
Me and Jesse were playing. It was like one of my first shows ever, and our friend that is a librarian, that's like a hidden radical librarian, booked us a show on the patio at the Durham Library.
Okay.
And it was just like queer country queers, and the flyer looked like a Waffle House menu. It was great. It's like a beautiful day. It was one of my first shows, so I was really nervous. And I went to play Pancho and Lefty and was crushing it. Didn't open my eyes the whole time, because if I opened my eyes, I knew I was going to mess it up. But then Jesse comes and sits down next to me and starts singing with me, and I was just so thrown off by the whole thing. I just like lost track of where I was. I was like, I'm sorry, I have to start over this last verse. And it was just like so embarrassed for so long. And then recently, like I think 5 or 6 months ago, me and Jesse had another show together, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna play Pancho and Lefty. Jesse, you go ahead and come on stage. I'm not gonna fuck it up this time.
Shout out to Jesse Dillon, by the way. Jesse's great. I tried to get Jesse to come play with Longley for my 40th birthday, but it didn't quite work out. But I saw Jesse afterwards. I actually randomly, and don't remember entering, I won tickets to go see I can't remember what the opening band was, but it was Geek and then Gel, a hardcore show at 506. And then that was actually the last time I saw Jesse. And they were like, I'm so sorry. I was like, it's okay. Like, it's cool. Everything turned out okay. But Jesse's awesome. Yeah.
Good person.
Good person. Yeah. See, what lessons have you gained in your experience as a musician?
That it's awkward. It's always going to be awkward.
Yeah.
And the trick is trying to pretend like it's not awkward or leaning into that.
Yeah.
There's like this barrier that I think happens, and I could be wrong about this. Maybe I just blindly stumbled onto it, but also observing other people, like it's inherently awkward being in front of a room full of people talking to people. And I know I'm awkward. I feel awkward. And you guys can probably tell that I'm a little bit awkward, but like if you lean into that a little bit, then it's not like I'm sitting over here cringing at Ron for being awkward and I wish I wasn't here and I wish Ron wasn't here. Rather than we're all having this awkward experience together and we're all a part of it, right?
Yeah.
Then it's endearing.
Well, I just met Zoe today, but I know everybody else in here, and I can tell you that we're all awkward.
Yeah, that's why I knew it fit in.
Yeah, exactly. Like, these are my people.
Yeah. A radio show? I fit in with awkward people. I like to hear myself talk. It's going to go great.
Yeah, like, this is perfect. What would you say your biggest weaknesses and strengths are as a musician?
I'd say I'm not that great of a guitar player. I have some tricks here and there.
Yeah.
But I'm just a lot of notes. And really the biggest thing when I've had bad shows, I've been too many beers for shows.
Yeah. Oh,
you think
yeah.
it's gonna make you better and you're feeling good, and then all of a sudden you would look back at those videos later and you're like, I was playing that like 20 BPM slower than I usually do. That's not that. That joke really didn't land. Yeah, I mean, I've had my struggles on and off with alcohol and various substances, and you know, I come from a family that has had a history of problems with substances.
I feel you on that.
And for me, I feel like I didn't even consider what moderation could be until I was in my 30s.
Same.
So, and I'm 33 now, and I'm just starting to figure out that you can have just as much fun on 2 or 3 beers as you can have on 10 or 12.
That's right.
If not more, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's probably my biggest weakness, getting carried away, and I don't know. It's hard to read a room sometimes.
That's true.
I feel like I've had that problem my whole life. We're just coming in too strong. What dang, you guys weren't here for jokes. Okay.
Like it's all quiet. You're just like, okay.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Before we go into this next song, does anybody here have a question for John?
My favorite dinosaur. It's the one. No, I'm glad you asked this. I just watched Jurassic Park again last night. My favorite one, I can't remember the name of them because they're in Jurassic Park: The Lost World too, and I watched the original last night. Not Velociraptors. What are the ones that have the big old dome on their head? Their whole defense mechanism just smash their face into something. That's who I want to be. That's like a metaphor for my life. Just smashing your head against things until you realize they won't break, and then you try something else. Good question.
What's your writing look like? When you set up to write, what's going on?
When I set up to write, well, I've worked in agriculture for the last 8 years. And outside of agriculture, I've done like trades and things like that. I really love menial tasks that are like mindless, where I can keep my hands busy but like let my mind go. And like that's where I write lyrics. Like there are so many songs that I'm like, oh yeah, that was in the Radish Patch over there. But I'll kind of compile lyrics and like little threads and little ideas all in like one note on my phone. And then I'll go home and I'll sit down, and usually I have like the melody in my head and I try to put that to guitar. Sometimes I'll come up with a cool guitar lick or cool progression and like just to kind of sit down and write a song from scratch organically. But usually it's like I have a little almost like a shoebox full of like little lines or one-liners or ideas that I'll kind of, when I get time to sit down, really like pull on some threads and see what happens. I think about half the songs I write don't leave the bedroom. And sometimes because it's like they're not very good, and it's like I kind of like this one part, I want to candleize it for something else. But it's like sometimes it's just like, you write a song just for you, and only you need to hear it, and that's okay, I try to like force myself to get in the habit of sitting down for for 30 minutes or an hour and be like, okay, I got all these threads, I'm pulling some of them, I'm gonna see what happens. But like also being okay with like, if nothing happens, it's not because you suck, it's just because it's not there today, But I'm looking forward to like writing with other people sometimes too. It's a thing I haven't really done yet, but I do get a lot of advice from like fellow songwriters and people that I've recorded with and stuff, which is really fun.
I just want to point out that Q is also, he's a very, very talented singer.
Oh, cool.
Very, very talented singer. Yeah, I got to.
Q's gonna come up here and sing us a song next.
What's the song?
That's the worst.
He does a killer version of "Cover Me Up" by Isabel. Like really, really good.
You have to tell Max about that one next. That's one of those too.
I have to get Max Q when Max does the next episode.
So a lot of things I listen to, sometimes I might pop on the radio. I prefer to go on podcasts.
Yeah.
Like next door radio. But what do you feel about the progression of where music is going these days? And where it's headed? Do you feel like it's more creatively open?
I think so. I think it's changed, and I think social media has everything to do with it.
Right?
Yeah, like it's weird. Like I complain all the time about having to make content for my songs because it's like I'd rather be writing songs or playing with my dog or doing anything other than like trying to market myself or make funny little videos. And it's not that like I hate the whole process. Like I've learned a lot. Videography's fun. Sometimes it turns out well. But the fact that there's like no record labels anymore. They only exist as like major distributors. Exactly. So yeah, so the gatekeepers are totally gone. It's also damn free for all in there. Like everybody and their cousin's cousin can pick up a guitar and play, and like, I mean, I'm not that good a singer, but my studio tracks sound real good because of what you can do with technology nowadays. But it's changed it. It's given a lot more people access to independent music than ever before. You used to have to go down to that club, whether it was like the Cave or the Pinhook or back in the Raleigh days, the brewery.
Oh yeah.
The dive bar, the Satellites, all them. And those places are around as much anymore. The pandemic's had a lot to do with that. But the fact that just like anyone can get out there and promote their music and go viral on an app that's absolutely free. Yeah.
You should do Patreon.
Patreon. I have high hopes of a Patreon. I've like, yeah, I would love to be able to do content in like a different form than what the social media platforms kind of dictate for you. Like more long form stuff. I'd love to like do more writing, like prose. And yeah, I'm kind of like, I've like made fun of like musicians like, oh, you got Patreon, I guess it's paying your fucking bills. But like the truth is that it is, and I see a lot of being in agriculture too. I've had a really hard time trying to find my own land and start a farm with my husband for the last better part of a decade. But I see a ton of farmers out there like doing the Patreon thing or like teaching a class, and like I'm the worst on those people. I'm like, anytime we put on like gardening YouTube, I'm like, yeah, no, that's not right. Yeah, maybe that'll work when you're climbing. But like, Now I'm looking at it as more like, okay, is this an outlet that I can be creative with and foster a community around it, and like the more I start working with videography and the more I start like writing comedy stuff, like I'm starting to enjoy it really. So hopefully that's coming down the road.
Yeah, gotta do what you love, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Gotta do what you love because you ain't get paid either way.
That's right.
That's right.
All right. What song do you have for us next, John?
Okay, I'm gonna do a total mood shift here and do a serious song.
All right.
My mom always told me it was better to lead with a joke if you got something heavy to talk about. I wrote this song after the shooting that happened in Colorado Springs last year. And I was thinking about that and I don't know if y'all remember the Pulse nightclub shooting back in the day, just the general climate of violence with these extreme politicians and groups. It's ridiculous because like queer people and trans people have existed for as long as humans have been around, and every so often they decide they're going to have another lavender scare.
Yeah.
And another roundup. They need to pick somebody else to be an other, and it just makes me want to say a lot of bad words I shouldn't say on the radio. It's called How Many of Us, and it's coming out next week. This is kind of like a finger-picking rendition of it. Well, how many of us gunned down in cold blood? How many gone before their time? Shots rang out without a warning. Good people lose their lives. It's a vicious world out there, and it ain't right, and it ain't fair, and you can feel the tension in the cold night air. You can see it in the way they stare. Every time it happens, we speak their names, lay flowers on their graves. How long will it be? How long will it be till they hunt us down again? And I'm sad and scared and angry all at the same time. When it feels like just existing is a crime. Lord, let there be a place for me and mine. For me and mine. For me and mine. It's a vicious world out there. It ain't right. It ain't fair. You can feel the tension in the cold night air. You can see it in their stare. Thanks, Joe.
That was amazing.
That was a heavy one.
Yeah, it was. It's a.
I
it's
never
a
know
good
how
heavy.
to approach it. Yeah.
That was amazing. That's like a great heavy.
It's so much harder to sing those songs like and be vulnerable in that way than it is to tell jokes about Earl.
Yeah. I know. I totally understand, but like being vulnerable. How do I say this? That's a great kind of vulnerable you want to be.
Yeah.
Like that just blew me out like the water. Like that's amazing. Like I'm off.
Thanks, Sean.
I lost my track of thought now. But so we're gonna be wrapping up here soon, and we're gonna get you to lead us out with your last song in a minute. I've got 3 short questions. What do you want people to take away from your music?
Take away from my music. I would hope on the bottom line, I would hope it makes people feel less alone.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big reason why I started wanting to write music, especially for rural queer people like me that have grown up like I have, like you have.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time thinking like, man, I might be the only one, but we're everywhere. And the thing is, like, especially like me, like I'm out and proud and I'm okay with who I am.
Yeah.
But like, some days I'll take off my fingernail polish before I go down to the hardware store, just as I don't want to get those looks.
Yeah.
Not that I care what they think,
But you still don't want to deal with it.
but it's also like, Jim Bob's actually going to help me fix my chainsaw if he doesn't think I'm a liberal arts major. It's just the sacrifices to navigate places often leave us hidden even to each other.
All right. And well, that actually answers my second question. Sacrifices that you made as a musician and maybe as a person, being a musician, and is there anything that you regret, any sacrifices that you made that you regret?
Well, every time I leave my dog at home, I think about it. He's really old. He's really old. And he's a border collie, and they kind of start to lose their brains as they get older. And he's super attached to me. And like, I think really the sacrifices come on my husband's end because he has to hear every single joke line to his song. Everything is a constant, like, walk in the room, like pitch something to him, and he's like, "Oh my God, I'm exhausted by this."
He's a test audience.
Yeah. But he's a great sport,
Yeah.
and I could not be doing any of this
If it wasn't
without
for him.
his support.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. I just want to point out, Laura, he sounds like WL, doesn't he? You sound like my stepbrother.
Your
Like,
stepbrother?
yeah, he's from Virgilina.
Virgilina?
Yeah,
Uh-oh.
yeah.
I got family out there.
Uh-oh.
Ron, are we related?
Dude, with me, there might be a possibility.
Well, either way, Ron, you're coming to the fish fry this year.
Woo! I don't eat fish, but I'll be there. I'll eat all the sides.
We cook mushrooms because half our friends are vegan.
All right.
We do that for them.
Yeah, that
in a
works for me.
separate oil fryer.
That works for me. So my last question before you lead us out, any advice for upcoming musicians that are just starting out?
There's a guy I'd like to introduce you to. His name is Ron. He runs a radio.
Yeah, right.
I would say, yeah, up and coming. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there. You're gonna be afraid and for a long time, but then once you finally do it, it gets better. It gets less and less scary every time. And I really think that the reason I've gotten here is because of open mics, first and foremost.
Yeah.
I started playing shows a little over a year ago. And before that, I would bomb an open mic like once a week.
Yeah.
And then I started to like bomb 2 out of 3 songs. And then it was like, oh, I can mostly get through this set without completely screwing it up. And it was those places that I met other musicians, and I was eventually like, impress somebody enough to they were like, well, why don't you come open for us? Well, you got 30 minutes, right? You could put 30 minutes together. Come open for us. But even on the nights, especially on the nights that it's like, you just totally weren't with it. You just completely forgot the words or whatever went wrong. People that come up to me and were like, hey, man, I saw what you were going for. You're getting there, dude. You sound better than you did 3 months ago. I think, I try to go as often as I can to open mics.
Yeah.
And, usually I'll do like funny covers or try out new songs or tell new jokes or whatever. It's like a place to kind of try things out, but also just to like meet the up and coming musicians and like tell people like, hey, your voice is really suited for that song, or like any compliment you can give people, like start conversations around music. I think every single person that's recorded on my songs in the studio, I've met at an open mic.
Nice.
Including my buddy Josh at Contrabass Productions that I've been recording almost everything with.
Okay, nice.
It's just, I think that's where community really takes place.
Yeah. And I won't go into it, but I've had people like ask me like, how did you get involved? And I'm just like, this is what you got to do to get involved. And like, even if you're not a musician, if you're behind the scenes, like stuff like I do, like, this is what you got to do.
Yeah.
And it's not that hard. And really it's just meeting people.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah. So we're going to get you to lead us out for this episode here in a second. I just want to thank everybody for listening. This is our 3rd episode of our studio session series for Stuck in Rotation and Next Door Radio. If everybody give John Rodney a big round of applause for coming on and thanking him so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for saving. When he came in, I was like, there goes my hero. His name's John Rodney. Because he saved the day. And thanks so much. This has been an amazing episode. I'm so grateful that I know you're a friend and that you came on and tell all the people, all your musician friends out there, be like, check out Stuck in Rotation.
Well, I will.
Spread the word.
Yeah.
Trying to make it a big thing around the local spot. But
I'll paint you to be some sort of legendary creature.
Yes.
Yeah. Can't quite be pinned down by reason or logic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so this will be our last song for the night for John Rodney. Tell us what song we're listening to and lead us out.
So this song is actually going to be the title track off of my upcoming full-length album. I thought it was going to come out this year, but it's not looking likely. I've had unexpected expenses. My husband got real sick last year, and we spent that money on the hospital because the hospital really needed to buy themselves a jet ski. But now this is a song about working on yourself, about being okay with where you're at and trying to become the best version of who you are. It's called My Way Home. Well, I've been working on letting go of the anger that I let take a hold. I've been searching, trying to find a better part of me I left behind. Well, I know I'm not where I should be, but somehow I'm gonna find my way home. Well, I've been learning when to fold. If the cards no longer in my favor, well, I've been staying right on track. I've been tending to the best parts of my nature, but sometimes it's all I can do to crawl. But someday I'm gonna find a way to walk. Well, I've been climbing up that mountain. Been looking for whatever I can see. I've been healing from those that hurt me. I've been giving them the same grace that I need. But it seems that I've fallen down again. But come soon, I'm gonna be back on top. I've been sleeping without help from the bottom or a hazy cloud of smoke. Well, I've been cleaning up my act, and I've been trying not to hide behind my jokes. Oh, when I look back at the places I have been, I see how they've led me where I am now, and how they've led me to where I am now. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you, John Rodney. This has been Stuck in Rotation. We'll see you next Thursday. We good? Everybody,
Yeah.
John Rodney.
Thank you, guys.
You sing from the heart. I love it.
I appreciate it.
Love it.
What'd you think?
It was fun.
Awesome.
Yeah. As soon as we sat down, I wasn't nervous anymore.
Yeah.
The same as the
You
show.
just turned me on to country.
Yeah. Oh, I got a
I'm
whole.
not a huge country fan.
Yeah.
You gotta listen to the right type of country.
John Prine
Yeah.
in there.
Oh, all the licks I stole from him, right?
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah.
His voice? Yeah. He did. Did you ever hear that story about how he had John Prine for dinner and was telling him about this song?
Yes.
Yeah. He was like, oh. He goes, oh, was it that one? Yeah, this is good cake.
I really like your life.
Speaking of Isabel, so at the Lord Jane Grey show,